I think finance transformation is nothing but a pie of a bigger cake, right? Which is your digital transformation. The difference is that in a finance transformation, you're focusing on the finance department and some of the related processes and the technology as well. Whereas for me, the digital transformation, and we've gone through one, in fact, two of them. The digital transformation is kind of revisiting everything in the whole entity with the tech in the heart of it, right? That can be customer services, right? What software are they using? What CRM that they have got? How they're approaching people, processes, technology, people, right? All side of things they'll have to look at.
This podcast is sponsored by Asdan. And this podcast is sponsored by Haft, Hub of Finance Transformation.
I think the word finance transformation got misused recently.
Okay.
I remember one of the discussion was one of my friends that they started to automate a certain process and they call it a huge finance transformation project, where in reality the process that they are trying to automate is like giving in the business, daily business as usual.
Okay.
So we're happy to have you, Shaheen, in the studio today because we need to share some spotlight on what do you mean by finance transformation. What exactly we're going to call a project as a finance transformation, and is it a project with a start and end date or continuous project as well?
Okay.
So welcome, Shaheen, to our studio.
Thank you very much, Rida. Very happy to be here.
Okay. Yeah. If we just can start you taking us through your career.
I'll be more than happy to do that, Rida. Thank you very much, and I'm very excited and thrilled to be here. I must say in the beginning that this is my first podcast. So if I get confused anywhere, so just help me out here, right? So for me, Mahmood, my professional career is like a world tour in finance. It goes back to 1999 when I started my career with one of the big fours, EY. I worked with them for 4 years and completed my chartered accountancy and ACCA at the same time. And during that time, I worked on a number of financial and non-financial services clients. So it was a bit of a mixed bag. What it does after that to me, Rida, is taking me to Deloitte London office. And that's where I really start deepening my skills into audit, assurance, and financial services, and then specializing in insurance and investment management, right? During that time, I think one of the things that I really learned in the beginning, that opportunities are not going to wait for you, right? As soon as they come in, you need to grab them with both hands, or otherwise, and you would have heard it from some of the other guys in the big fours, you'll be stuck in a corner on the audits for the whole of your life. That was not my journey, Rida. It was very different, right? So I was there on some of the largest audits of the firm, the big FTSE 100s, the largest insurance companies. But at the same time, I was able to do mergers and acquisitions, IPOs, finance transformation projects, and a large IFRS conversions as well. What it does to you, Rida, as you do all these different things, you have learned so many things, just like collecting stamps, that you're ready for the industry, right? My passion was always to be on the other side of the table, right? Because when you're in the firm, you're working with large corporates, but you're only doing part of the process. You're never in the game, right? So just staying on to grabbing the opportunity, my next role then took me to the largest insurance group back in the UK called Aviva PLC, with gross written premiums of good like $20 billion. And interestingly, I didn't go for a normal FP&A CFO role. I went to a head of investor relations role, completely out of my comfort zone, right? And first few days, Rida, I cannot tell you how many times it came into my mind and I'm like, why did I do that, man? Deloitte was such a lovely place. I was so comfortable there. I knew my audits in and out. Why did I jump onto that? But I did it. When I did it, it gave me such an opportunity to learn about the industry, to really understand how these top C-level suite guys, the CEOs, how they actually go out to the market and tell their story of growth and the success. It gave me this great chance of working with the investor and the analyst community, which I'd never got a chance in Deloitte, right? And the way I could understand the insurance market after working with Aviva, that was, I could not have got it anywhere else, right? because you are actually the face of the organization. You are actually working with the whole community where you have to actually tell your story. And I think one of the examples I would definitely love to share that we worked on a very large project, working with every single department and the territories. And we came up with a story called This is Aviva, right? And then it was just taken out to the market to really explain what are we, what do we do, how do we do business, how do we work with the communities, right? So that was a lovely, great experience. Having done that for a couple of years, right? The next thing, and another opportunity which came in, and me again trying to come out of my comfort zone, not only from Aviva this time, leaving UK as well, coming to Riyadh. We are going back good 7 years ago, right? Riyadh was not the Riyadh that you have it today.
Of course.
And as you mentioned that you know that, it used to be very different, right? And I cannot forget that one moment when I went back to the CFO saying, okay, I've got this opportunity in Riyadh with Marshall McLennan, where I'm today as well, and I'll go on to that in a second. He literally looked at me, Rida, from top to bottom saying, I thought we were treating you really well, Shaheen, here. Why do you have to go to Saudi, right? So, but this opportunity came in Marshall McLennan to be the CFO of their Saudi business. It took me some time to decide on that, but then I decided, went on to that. And today I can say it after being with the organization for 8 years, this was actually one of the best decisions of my career that I made. Right? And I'll tell you why I did, why I'm saying this is, moving to Marshall McLennan, really going into that CFO position, again, which I have not done in the past, right? There, when I came into Saudi, there was no finance department. So I had to build that up from the scratch, right? Then a lot of the progress was happening in terms of the new entities, the footprints. We were trying to do new businesses. A lot of the different aspects of the businesses were being brought into Saudi at that time. So I feel really proud that I could help the CEO and the senior leadership team in really making that a success, right? So I've been with Marshall McLennan, group of companies, as the regional controller and the CEO of their RHQ for 8 years now. During these 8 years, Rida, I have worked on multiple projects in addition to my usual CFO role. Some of them, namely, I've led the tax implementation in Saudi, now working very closely on the UAE one as well. I have helped the CEOs, as I said. We have gone into a number of territories during this time, right? New territories, new entities, new businesses. As an example, we never had the wealth business in Saudi. We gone into that. I was on the forefront of leading that project with the CEO to make sure we've got an entity. When we set up an entity, we've got the tax and the regulatory compliance in place as well. So it makes me feel proud today that all these years that you've been in the industry here in the Middle East, at a regional role, you were able to work with so many diverse stakeholder group, right? Because Marshall McLennan has got a number of entities and we've got a number of businesses, and maybe we can go on to that a little bit later. So that was actually something that I could work on, right? And another thing that I feel good about is during this time, I could really mentor and develop the finance talent, right? So I had a very large team in the region, which we have now changed quite a lot, and we'll go on to that finance transformation piece in a minute. These days, just concluding this, Rida, my passion, maybe like everybody else, is technology, AI, Gen AI, right? It's my passion personally as well, not only for the organization. We are doing a lot of work internally to make that happen and gain that competitive edge in terms of really bringing it into our processes, get our finance team educated with that, right? So really trying to spend time personally and along with the organization to really understand the tools, really see what potential it contains and where we can really take it in future. So that's, I think, a long answer to your short question.
No, that's lovely.
Yeah.
I just want a quick catch-up question here. Yeah. If you're going to name only one difference between Deloitte and EY, what would be that difference?
In EY, I think I was at a slightly junior level, right? I had a mix of the clients, right? From an approach perspective, I think I found Deloitte a lot more interesting, right? Maybe because of the group of the people that I was working with and the size and the complexity of the clients. was much bigger for me and to learn a lot more than the time that I had at UI. Yeah.
Okay. Clear. So that's a very impressive movement between two big fours.
Yeah.
And so far, one big industry, if I may say.
Agree. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, many people, they have this question in terms of the ways of working between the big four and the industry.
Got it.
The common answer to this question, to be fair, Shaheen, that
Yeah.
they always say that for the big four, you get to know different industry, different clients
Yeah.
everywhere.
Got it.
But from the industry, you have one monotone industry.
Agree. Yeah.
Do you see any difference between the big four working or the firm working, as you said, and the industry working away from different industries and the firms compared to the industry?
Rida, first of all, you don't need to complete a timesheet in the industry, right? That's definitely. And you ask any guy who's working in a big
True.
four how big pain that is. It doesn't matter what level you are, right?
True.
So, and I still kind of remember that when I'm coming into the industry for the first time, I'm like, man, I don't need to worry about a weekly timesheet now, right? Keeping joke on a side, I think when you're actually in the industry, I would say you kind of see your path a little bit more clear. That for me, at least, that's the case, right? And when I'm in the firm, I'm again going back to the point you mentioned. You are doing a lot of different things, right? And what I used to feel, Rida, and I was actually at a senior level in the firm, that you are doing these projects, right? And you then hand it over, but you never see the other side of it, right? Finance transformations, right? IFRS implementations, a lot of these things. I'll give you an advice. You're a client, you'll take it. You implement it, not implement it. Firstly, that's your choice.
Cool.
Secondly,
You paid for that.
exactly, you paid us for that. We are done. We have given you the PowerPoint in the end, or we had our meetings with you. I'll never see the other side of it, right? What I really find interesting here is, and there are just so many examples I can quote. And one of the examples, I'll probably take this forward with the example that we completed 2 acquisitions in the last 2.5, 3 years, right? Had I been in the firm, and as you'd expect, we had the big fours involved on the due diligence and everything. They came in, we had the calls, they gave us the advice, full stop, right? But me in the organization, definitely I was working with them on the other side. But now I have got that understanding of how I need to take it forward, right? I really enjoy that. I know what's going to happen to my numbers in future. I know what is happening with the integration of the people and the systems, right? So this whole post-integration piece, right? And what is our strategy with acquisition of those businesses and where we're going to take those forward, that is something I always used to miss, right? But when you're actually in an organization, you're not in the big four, you get to do all of that, right? So you really see the result of it. You really take it to the end, right? Instead of just doing a piece of it and then moving away from it.
Okay. Now, so many people think that in order to reach with a speedboat to the top of finance team in the industry, you need to have your Big Four background. Is that true?
It really helps, Rida, I must say. In fact,
You're the third guest with a Big Four background,
yeah,
jumping directly to the CFO role.
got it. Yeah, it definitely helps, right?
Okay.
In fact, it's so interesting. I was actually in a seminar the other day, right?
Okay.
And it just happens to be, it doesn't happen to me that much. It just happens to be that one of the guys who walked, and I was just eating, right? And he came to me saying, oh yeah, did you enjoy the seminar? They started the conversation and I liked it. And then he suddenly was like, oh, would you have an advice for me? And I'm like, do you want a tax advice or what advice you have? Because we've just come out of a tax seminar. He was like, no. I've just started my career, right? He just started his ACCA and he's done few papers and he started working with a small firm. I don't even remember the name now, in Dubai, right? And my one advice to him was, whenever you get a chance, today, tomorrow, after 1 year, 2 years, go into a big four, right? The way it helps is, right, Rida, if I'm coming from Deloitte, right, I don't have to explain it to anyone where I'm coming from, right?
No, true.
They know the size. They would kind of have that start of, yes, he would have had a lot of opportunities during his time in Deloitte, right? And as you start talking, and then the second thing is, if not the third, fourth person is actually going to be next Deloitte, right? I mean, you go anywhere. In fact, going back to the seminar the other day, I started talking to the guy who was the head of the whole practice, right? And I was like, I don't think so. I've seen you somewhere, but your face looks very familiar. Rida, you wouldn't believe, in like 10 seconds, I knew exactly which office in London he used to sit.
Really?
In Deloitte.
Okay.
And we were in the same building. He was on the third floor, I was on the second floor.
Okay.
Right? So I think it helps you go back to the connections pretty quickly. No doubt the exposure that you get, right? And I'm pretty sure it's the same case. It's the case for all the big fours. The exposure that you get, I think it's hard to get it in the smaller firms. My view again, very personal view.
No, that's a proven track record.
Yeah.
Your case and the guest before you used to have the same background.
Got it. Yeah.
One of the big fours as well, and he got an opportunity as a CFO for a small company, and then after the small company, CFO of the bigger company as well.
Got it. Yeah.
So I mean, that's your opinion, but there is a proven track record, not only for you, for other people as well. Now, away from having the benefit or the advantage to have one of the big four background, even your team that joined the industry at your company, for example,
Sure.
that they aspire to be as a CFO, they don't have the option to go to one of the big four as we speak now.
Yeah.
What other advices or key success factors that allow finance professionals in general reach to the CFO seat?
Got it. A very good question. And I'll probably touch upon a couple of points there, Rida. And it's again from my own experience and just learning from some of the other guys as well.
Of course.
If it sounds theoretical, it may sound theoretical, but that's what I believe in as well, right? Rida, one of the things that I sometimes find lacking in some of the team members is that internal fire to kind of learn, right? If they've got a job, they are more than happy to just do that job in the way they have always done and then go back home, right? If you've got that mindset, you're not going anywhere. So my first thing to the guys is, and sometimes they may not like me for that as well, right? I love this whole Gen I thing, right? You ask someone at my home as well, how much do I try these tools, right? Fully understanding the risks and all that. So I'm not trying it in my office data, right?
Of course.
But on my own, just to learn, right? What is going on, man, in this world? Why there is such a hype? Are people really getting any value out of it, right? And if there is any internal trainings on things like this is just an example, right? I would go for it, right? Because I'm like, this doesn't stop. So the first thing is this: really have to the urge to not learn what the businesses are we in, right? What do we do? What other departments do? What Rida is doing in LCP in legal and compliance, right? What other guys are doing on the sales side, customer experience. If you've got that curiosity to really go out and talk to people, it will help you build your relationships. It will help you with your networking. They would know you. It will really make you understand how do we do business, right? Once you start doing all of that, and at the same time you keep on learning, you will make progress, right?
Okay.
And second point, Rida, which we covered earlier, and this is throughout my career, and I learned it and I'll quote it probably here. Somebody told me, I was on this leadership course in Marsh & McLennan. We were there back in the US in our global headquarters in Midtown Manhattan. And they had this speaker who came in and said one thing, which I never forgot. It's been 5 years now, that be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? If you want to be in your comfort zone and you don't want to take any risks, again, Rida, you're not going anywhere, right? For me, honestly, going back to the same point of Aviva, when I moved from Deloitte, and Deloitte was going really well, trust me, at that time, right? And me going, it was in the city, it wasn't far from Deloitte office. You're in their global corporate headquarters, because Aviva they've got their global headquarters in central London. For first few days, I'm like, man, I need to go back, right? I just cannot be here. I look at their annual report, it's like a 400 pages annual report, right? I'm coming from insurance background, but I'm not a big life annuity, super technical life side of things I've seen in the past. It took me some time to really understand what on earth these guys do, right? What are their products? But then you had to go around the organization, find those things, and then you can actually talk to somebody in the market, right? So really raising your hand for the opportunities, right? Get ready to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be easy. Yeah. And then keep going on that.
Okay.
I think these are a couple of things that I can, just from my experience, I can advise. And if people keep on doing it, there will be a time that we'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. That's very clear. Now, I do believe that Big Four give you an edge as well, not only from a technical, operational, different industry background know-how, but as well the Big Four, they run business on finance transformation, big project across all the boards.
They do.
Now, do you have a definition of the finance transformation? I mean, do we once we automate a simple step, do we call it transformation? What exactly the thing that we can call it a purely finance transformation?
Okay. There are two ways of explaining it, right? One is if you are in the Big Four, right? Yeah. And you're selling it to the client.
Of course. I thought that you're going to bring this subject, of course.
Then the first point that you mentioned, even a small process change is a finance transfer. It becomes the buzzword.
Number of hours.
Numbers of hours, exactly. Because if I'll call it, I'm just upgrading your process, you're not going to pay me what Big Four is going to come up with, right?
Of course.
But if you're in the organization, right, then definitely a small change in the process is not a finance transformation. For me, conceptually, Rida, and that's what we did when I came into Saudi, right? And maybe I can quote some example here that when I come into Saudi and I go into my office, right? First day I'm greeted with this big pile of expense receipts to be checked, right? And I look at that guy who was not, there was no team, right? And then I look at this guy who brought this to me and I'm like, what do you want me to do with this pile? He was like, you're going to check it, then we're going to pay expenses. And I'm like, is this the best use of my time, right?
Exactly.
I mean, is this the finance that you guys have? So that mentality of finance is a group of people sitting in that corner, right? Checking receipts, passing journal entries. At the end of the month, we'll tell you how much your sales and expenses are, is the finance that we were used to, right? That is not the finance that you can survive, especially today you cannot. So for me, the way it's going to work it out, that you pick up that finance function, right? Or you really bring it to a point where they've got seat at the table, sitting with the CEO, sitting with the senior stakeholders, and participating actively in the discussions about, or do we need to launch a new product, right? What do I need to do with that, right? Do we understand the market? Do we have the numbers? Do we have any analysis? Do we have any data, right? I want to go into, I want to have a new footprint. In GCC, I want to go and establish a business in Qatar, right? Can my finance team support with that? Or do I need to go to a Big Four and get me all that analysis? But how do you do that, right? So I'm sure we'll go into a bit more detail on how it works. But for me, really changing that finance team from that point to a point where they can foresee, right? They can actually and actively participate in where the business is going and what the business strategy is, and can support that business strategy. If you can convert your finance team from that to this, you've done a finance transformation, in my view.
So that was the definition of the finance transformation.
Yeah.
Some people got confused between doing finance transformation and digital transformation. If there is any similarities between finance transformation and digital transformation?
Okay. If I were to just kind of tell you how I feel about it first, and then we'll go into a bit more detail on the similarities. For me, I think finance transformation is nothing but a pie of a bigger cake, right? Which is your digital transformation. The difference is that in a finance transformation, you're focusing on the finance department and some of the related processes and the technology as well. Whereas for me, the digital transformation, and we have gone through one, in fact, two of them. The digital transformation is kind of revisiting everything in the whole entity with the tech in the heart of it, right? That can be customer services, right? What software are they using? What CRM that they have got? How they're approaching people, processes, technology, people, right? All side of things they'll have to look at. Sales department, legal and compliance, HR. So if you are actually revisiting the people, process, technology side of things on all the departments throughout the organization, with again technology at the heart of it, is your digital transformation. But if you are exactly doing the same thing, but only focusing on the finance and not really going out, that is your finance transformation. In simple words.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're saying that digital transformation is across all the the operation, not only finance, and it is mainly focusing on the technology itself.
Yeah.
However, finance transformation is only laser focused on finance,
Agree.
and it's not only entitled for the technology.
I'll just correct a little bit here, right?
Okay.
It's in the digital transformation, in my view, you will be looking at the people process side of things as well. But technology has to be really at the heart of it, right? In the finance transformation, technology is a very key part without a doubt. But then I'm definitely covering everything else related to the finance as well.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. Now, being one of the previous big four, and you get a project of finance transformation.
Got it.
So one of the CFO or the GM of the company came to you, for example, and said, my finance team sits in the corner, as you said, processing claims, posting entries, staying overnight for the month's end closing, and then coming on the next day telling you what is your expense and all of these. I just want to revamp that.
Yeah.
Then we set expectation and we agreed that we're going to have a finance transformation project for that finance team.
Got it.
How the success look like that we have done a finance transformation here?
Okay. For me, the success would look like in a couple of things, right? One is very important for me and close to my heart is what has happened to their work-life balance after the finance transformation.
Nice.
That's one. If nothing has changed, you got a problem here, right? Secondly, do they now understand their role clearly, right? Have we managed to redefine their roles, right? Realign them to it can be to the entities, it can be to the businesses, whatever works best for the organization, right? I have seen organizations whereby the finance team is aligned to the entities. Some of the times they are aligned to the businesses, right? And there can be multiple entities under it. So work-life balance first. Secondly, can that finance person explain his role by himself now? Does he clearly understand that, right? The third point for me on that going to be is what has happened to the reporting timelines, right? Or we used to report 5 days after the close, right? Have I made any difference to it without impacting the work-life balance of the people, right? And also at the same time, I've not hired an army of people. Just now I can just bring it shorter, right? Or bring it forward. So is the efficiency in the work that we are doing, the work-life balance, right? Efficiency in terms of my close, right? And also I'll have a very close eye on what happens to my cost. Was I able to bring any cost efficiency through that process of the whole finance transformation? So these will be, I think, some of the KPIs or the success factors that I'll look at the end to kind of measure the success of the project.
So in a summary, you're saying delivering more efficiently with reduction, with less cost.
Agree. Yeah.
Without impacting anyone's work-life balance.
Exactly. Yeah. Sounds very.
That's the success factor for the finance transformation.
It should be exactly. That's what I'll look at. Yeah.
To land such a mission as a finance transformation, what will be the biggest obstacle landing a finance transformation project in any company?
I think one of the things that can really give us a problem, right? If the communication was not properly handled, right? And this is me telling you from my own experience. Communication is definitely extremely key when it comes to any finance transformation. And I'm talking more from internal than a big four working on it, right? What I mean by this is you have to actually make sure that before you start the project, you're letting the people know what you're about to do, right? How it's going to work, what impact it's going to have on people, processes, technology, and how the success is going to look like in the end, right? And that doesn't stop there either. You have to do it at every stage. And then if things are not working, those have to be discussed openly as well, right? And then in the end, you actually let people know what we have achieved. So they can clearly see that, okay, we have gone through all of this, but this is our achievement in the end. So I think for me, the communication piece, because it's linked to the people, is extremely important when it comes to any finance transformation. Right? And with that, I think communicating not only with the people, but with the senior stakeholders, management buy-in, that is all linked. Right? So that all have to be really handled properly throughout the project from start to finish.
But that's like kind of enablers.
Yeah.
Then the obstacle here, what? People resistance?
And I was
as
about
a result of that.
sorry, I got sidetracked a little bit. Sorry,
Yes.
I lost my train of thoughts here. That's exactly what I was trying to get to. If you don't do that, right?
Exactly.
Then what happens? People would not understand it. So people who are actually should be implementing it and then sustaining it would not do good job. If you're not doing it with the senior stakeholders properly, they will have issues, right? I'll give you an example. We were working on an internal transformation project, not a very large one, but definitely it was impacting multiple countries and multiple entities, right? As expected, and we already kind of internally discussed before we went out, there were some of the countries and the CEOs we would have a problem with, right? There are different issues that they're going to come back and saying, oh, no, you can't do this. This is not going to work in my country. Particular issues were there, which we understood. So, Rida, we really had to think through and have the solutions in place before we could even jump on that project, right? With hindsight, had we not done that, the project was not going anywhere, at least for those particular countries and entities. Our task was, right, and my task with the US team was to actually deliver the project for the whole region. So I could not go back and say, oh yeah, I've done it for this nice country, but these 4 countries is not going to work, right? This is not the success that they wanted to see at the end. So I think going back to your question, if in my view, if the communication is not running through, right, then people, the senior leadership team can be an obstacle as well instead of a support. People who are key to it and needs to deliver, they can be a problem as well, right?
Okay.
I think the selection of the technology, right, it's very key here as well. If you're not doing it properly, then it can be kind of one of the biggest obstacles that you can have to achieve your objectives from the finance transformation.
Okay, I have 2 questions here.
Sure.
Have you ever heard the word, will I lose my job? Due to this project?
A million
Due to this
times.
project?
Yeah.
How you handle such a question? If you're going to implement a finance transformation project and you got in the communication an ominous comment or question, will I do my job because of that? Why should I cooperate with you if I'm going to lose my job?
Okay. Actually, it's quite interesting that I had to go through this last year, right? And where people were actually losing their job, right? But for us, the key thing, Rida, was the only way we could go through that is make them understand that it's not about that person. It's about, so for example, what I'm trying to get to, in that particular project, the roles were moving, right? One of the things in that project was, and to achieve the cost efficiencies, because there were some of the roles which could have been done somewhere else in a center as well. So it was not about the person, right? It was actually about the role. So it went back to our communication skills to actually explain to the person that it's not about you. It could have been somebody else as well. It's about the role, right, which is going from here. Yeah. And that's why if you're going to lose your job, it's because of that, right? And then you have to definitely work with the people to make sure that they are being looked after in terms of the time, from a time perspective, from their long-term goals perspective as well, right? We definitely tried to place some of them internally, whatever help we could provide at that time. But this question definitely comes up, right? And then you have to have kind of different ways of tackling it. One of the things that we did, we attached a project bonus to making sure that if people, even if they were losing the job, firstly, they understood that it was not about their performance or anything. It's the way organization was going, right? And this is the way we're gonna take it forward. Definitely attaching a project bonus to, if you're gonna work with us during this time, this is what happens in the end, right? That became an incentive. Third thing that we did is give them a slightly longer period, right? Again, it can be different for different organizations depending on their cost budgets and all that as well. For us, what we could do for them is give them a slightly longer period, attach a project bonus in the end. That helped with the buy-in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. Now the second question related to technology selection.
Yeah.
If you go, Shaheen, to the market now, and I believe you've been part of many conferences and events, you will see every tech firm selling their product as if it is the only fully integrated end-to-end AI machine product.
Will solve every problem of your life.
Exactly. And then this salesman magically can convince CEO, chief IT officer easily.
Agree.
Then the finance team struggle after that.
Agree. Yeah.
The tech is not fully integrated. It has a lot of thousands of Excel sheets around it to make it running.
Agree. Yeah.
The data is not ready, the integration is not happening.
Yeah.
What is your advice for companies for tech selection
Okay.
in finance transformation?
In finance transformation. Before I go there, I'll just share my experience that I had to go through, without giving you any names of that, right?
Okay.
Same thing happens, right? We get sold a piece of software, right? And being a finance guy, you'd understand that you buy this software and you use it. It was the best software in the world. You do it, it produces a trial balance, and that doesn't balance. And literally, I was pulling my hair. I wanted to jump out of the window. And I'm like, if for a finance system, a trial balance doesn't balance, right? This is probably the worst system in the world that I could have, right? Okay. So you do get things like that, right? To your question now, actually, I was reading something from McKinsey a couple of days ago, and I think they put it really well, that don't go for all these shiny systems out there. Before you even think about going for a system, define your problem, right? If Rida, I know exactly, right, what I want to achieve from that system, what do I want? And if I've defined how success looks like, right, in my finance transformation from a technology angle, then I would know what I want and what I do not want, right? So for me, defining what I need is the most important thing, right? I'll link it to another example. We get this system, right, and then we work very closely with the vendor to implement it, right? It was rushed. I'll accept it. It was rushed in a way that there were some deadlines and it had to be implemented. And then you start using it. Hundreds of bugs, reports are not working, nothing is working, right? Then we realized later on that before we went for this thing, did we know what we wanted to achieve out of this? Why did we implement the system in the first place, right? Just because somebody said, oh, it's a lovely system, you guys should implement it. We just went ahead with it and then pushed it in the end as well. So the problems became double. I think for me, Rida, I think it's actually very important, right? That you know your problem that you're trying to solve by bringing in the technology.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair, I agree.
Yeah.
I think this is not only in business, even in personal life as
Oh,
well.
yes, exactly. With AI tool, every AI tool is getting sold now, isn't it? Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Now, the current elements are extremely important for any transformation or change process, which is people, process, and technology.
Understood.
All of them are important,
Got it.
of course. But if you're going to pick one of them as a key pillar, which one and why?
It's an easy one for me. It's people.
Why?
Okay. For me, processes, technology is there, right? But who's going to breathe life into these things? It's going to be the people, right? I can have the best technology, as you rightly said. I can buy the best technology in the world. But if I don't have the right people, it's of no use, right? I can ask a big four, in my case, Deloitte, right? To do the best flow charts and the processes for me. They'll do it, right? They'll do the best ones in the world. But if I don't have the right people to actually implement those processes, my finance transformation is not going anywhere, right? So for me, it's people, because they are the one who would know how and the why of this process, right? And again, as I said, they are the one I would expect them to breathe life into everything that I'm doing, right? And that's why I think it's very critical.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, Shaheen, time flies with you.
Okay.
Just one final question.
Yeah.
Especially not the big ones, because the big company, they have enough money to waste and strategically look for some initiatives. But for the SMEs, small and medium companies, if they want to start their finance transformation project, what kind of advice are you going to give them?
I'll say a few points and I'll try to be quick. Is again, define your problem, right? Why do you want to do it, right? I can't just come in an office in the morning saying, oh, I want to do a finance transformation. Again, it can be a buzzword in that case, right? Define your problem. Define what the success is going to look like for you, what you want to achieve after this, right? Please, small or a big organization, doesn't matter. You need to have the buy-in. If you've got the senior stakeholders and your team as well, right? Early on, don't leave it for last minute. Otherwise, you'll do all the right things. It's still not going to work, right? So I think even for the conceptually, I think Rida doesn't change for whether it's a small or a big company. Defining the problem, explaining how the success is going to look like for you. And thirdly, having this early communication, bottom up stakeholders is extremely key. If you do these things, I think the finance transformation will definitely give the benefits to an SME as well, just as it would do to a large corporate.
Okay, fair. I fully agree with you.
Yeah.
The concept of bringing SMEs, one, they have limited resources,
They do,
no
yeah.
other money to waste.
Yeah,
The other one, SMEs, sometimes they go for shiny, full-fledged end-to-end automation,
yeah,
where they are still SMEs
agree.
at the end of the day.
Yeah,
So defining the problem is important. They cannot replicate and behave as if they are a big corporation
agree.
as well.
Agree. Yeah,
So choosing the right transformation scope
it is. It
that
is.
fits or solving the problem of the SMEs,
Agree.
not only replicate whatever big companies they are doing when it comes to transformation as
Agree.
well.
Agree. Yeah.
Shaheen, that was lovely discussion, I have to say.
I had a lovely time as well. Rida.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The journey between the big fours, Deloitte and EY, between UK and Saudi, between firm and industry, and even going through the finance transformation details was really a mix of very interesting subjects.
Yeah.
I love your authenticity as well, sharing the
Thank
fact
you
as
very
it
much.
shows.
Thank you.
And it was really a pleasure having you in the studio as well.
Likewise, I had a lovely time. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.